Absolutely.
All right. I will start that. All right.
Cool.
How's your little one?
She's okay. She's doing a little better. Obviously, we weren't eating for a while, and now we're back to wanting to say, hey, eat that one first. Stuffing our face with our puff. So she's sitting right next to me. She's like very confused about what's happening.
Oh, look at that. She's
Say
so
hi,
cute. Hi.
Like, whoa. The whole new box people come in.
Yeah. She's like, that's weird. It's not three-dimensional. Her brain's like,
yeah, she's like, how'd you get in there?
Right.
So she's doing a little bit better. It's been a little bit of a rough week.
What does she have?
We don't know. And I think that's the hard part. She's really hasn't been well. Hey, okay, you don't have to feed him to doggy. She really hasn't been well for probably 2 months, fully well. And so, I don't know, Nick does a lot of stuff with her, which I think keeps her not as sick as she could be, which is helpful. But it's just hard because she's just so she's so congested, and it's not okay. We're not doing that. And snotty, and she keeps getting ear infections and sinus infections, which is actually super rare for babies. And so let's see, what's today? Friday? So Tuesday night, she hasn't been sleeping, so she'll sleep 3 hours and be up for 5, and that's not good.
No.
Or good for mom. Mom's brain is not functioning.
Right.
You have 4 in your mouth, eat them. And so, but Tuesday night she spiked a fever, and it wouldn't go down. It was probably at 102, 103 most of the day on Wednesday, and eat them. And finally it came down on Thursday. So she started feeling better yesterday, but we took her into the doc, and the doc's like, I think that she has a new virus, but I think that she has something chronic going on that is causing her to be immune deficient. And she's in daycare, which isn't helpful. And they had 2 cases of croup in daycare, which is the worst. And so eat that, please. And so I know. Look, there's one right here. You can eat this one. You don't need to grab all of them. Sorry. I said this might be really entertaining.
Yeah, totally.
But anyway, so our doc is sending us to a specialist, which I need to set up today. No, are we all done? So we have to go see a specialist, an ear, nose, and throat specialist, to see what's going on. Her worry is that her sinuses weren't fully developed necessarily, and so they're struggling to function correctly. A
little thing.
Yeah, which is scary, right? That makes me, and anytime, she was talking about having her adenoids removed and all this stuff, which, she's like, it's a really simple surgery. And I'm like, yeah, but she's 8 months old. Right. So you could tell me, I get that tubes are a simple surgery. You can tell me that they're simple. And I don't necessarily want my 8-month-old to have to start having surgeries, and recovering from that, from things that I don't know. It's a catch-22. I also don't want her to be sick all the time.
Yeah, for sure.
True, huh? So it's been a really tough week.
Yeah.
And I don't know, did you get my thing, my worksheet?
No, I don't think so.
My phone, and it doesn't always sign through.
Okay. No, I didn't see it.
Okay, I'll resend it.
Okay. That's cool.
But one of the things I put on my worksheet is my highlight is that I survived. I'm in a little bit of survival mode, and trying to balance how do I be an effective parent and an effective business owner, because in weeks like this, hi, do you want any more? We're all done. In weeks like this, it's super hard because I feel I'm the one who has to like take off and rearrange things and all that because my husband can't really.
Yeah.
We can look at Kim together. And so then that just like screws up my time. Like I'm supposed to go on like a momcation this weekend, which will be fun. But I also have like 3 hours of work I need to do because I couldn't get it done this week. So you want to sit on the and so that like just makes things a little bit stressful, and I feel like I'm trying to find a balance of like, what does that actually look like in my life now that I'm working a lot more?
Right.
And like I'm the one in our relationship that like doesn't get paid if I don't work. Like I can't bill for my my clients if I don't actually see them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So him and I were kind of talking around that too, because he also, and I get in his world that he has certain days, and that's it. Like he has a pet, and you can use them for sick or vacation, and once they're gone, they're gone.
Yeah.
He cuts it pretty close on those because he's gotten a lot sick, more sick than I have with her. So he's had to take off a few days just to catch up too. So that's been like my struggle. I feel like the last couple of weeks, as she's been progressively getting worse, and how to be a therapist on 4 hours of sleep.
Right. Yeah.
It was funny. I was with one of my kids, and he's super smart and really doesn't need therapy, but just needs somebody to talk to about all these really smart things that he knows. And when I'm not on my game, it's really hard sometimes. Okay, that's it, no more. And I was sitting there thinking about your story of your friend who had the therapist fall asleep on her, and I'm like, okay, do everything in your power to stay awake no matter what. Like, just make sure that you don't like doze off. I like got up and I was like, I'm just gonna like walk for a minute because my back really hurts. Like,
that's smart. Yeah.
Like, stay awake because I was like, this is not. I can't do this today.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, totally understandable. Like not getting sleep.
Yeah.
Whew, that's tough. It's interesting though, because I have another client. He and his wife just had their second little boy.
Okay.
And he's about the same age as yours.
Yeah.
And he's having tons of like illnesses also, like, and same stuff. Like he did just have tubes put in his ears and all that stuff. And I don't think it's really helped all that much because he's still and when he gets sick, he throws up or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so my client, because he's the same, his wife is a teacher, and she can't just miss work all the time. And so it's interesting how the people who end up having the business, right?
Yeah.
Y'all end up being the ones being more adaptable or flexible, I guess. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But then, then it screws your business because then you can't make money. So it's a very hard situation y'all are in, I think. So.
Yeah. And it's hard to like figure that piece out, I think too, because similar like with a teacher, right? There's not really a lot of days you can miss, and if you miss so many, you're just getting fired. And it's like, well, I'm my own boss, so I can't really fire. I guess my clients can, and not
right. Well, that's what you worry about too when you're inconsistent with clients, right? That they just stop coming.
Yeah, and we made a pact yesterday. I said, so from now on, like I've called out on my clients too much for either her being sick or me being sick or whatever. And I said, so from now on, like if we need to keep her home from daycare, and we don't have somebody to like watch her, we need to split our day. So you need to tell me which is more important, your morning or your afternoon, and I will move on my clients and just like tell them to be flexible. And most of them are. Thankfully, I have a lot of really great people right now who understand too. I had 2 clients who I see who were preemies, so their parents are like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
But I was like, I can't keep calling out on them because that's also not fair to them or to myself. Like it makes me look super flaky and like a bad therapist. So
that's hard.
I'm not willing to compromise that anymore.
Well, and that's good. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, and that's what we talked about with him because he's an accountant or a CPA.
Okay.
And he was doing the same thing. And it was kind of like, well, I think part of the challenge too is not being angry with the child, right? For being sick again. Or, I mean, because you're like, and so, you just don't want to fall into that. But
yeah, absolutely. And I think actually it was funny because I've been on this like I talk with a lot of my clients around not like being forgiving of themselves, right? Like being, and it's the hardest thing for me in the world, and especially as a parent, I feel like I'm going through it all over again because I get so frustrated when it's like, you know, she's been up from 10:30 to 2:30, and I'm like, I'm exhausted. Like I literally have slept 4 hours in the last 3 days, and I can't, like I'm not functioning. And I like get frustrated with myself when I get frustrated with her because it's like she can't fix that.
No, I know.
Like I'm so not. I don't know what to do. Like So Nick and I talked a lot around like how to be okay with just like letting her be for a while, and like knowing that she's safe, and as long as she's like healthy and you know, leaving and doing my self-care, which is like the hardest. Thanks. That was unnecessary. Yeah, thank you. Unnecessary. But how to just like balance that piece for myself too, and not feeling, he's like, you're not abusing your kid, you're not being detrimental to them. Like it's okay to get frustrated and to like walk away and let them cry it out a little bit and come back. I was like, okay. Thanks.
Well, and that your feelings around it are just as valid, right? Even though, I mean, I know you don't want to be like taking it out on your daughter for sure, but it's like, it's okay to be frustrated because it's hard. And I'm sure there's a level of like, I don't know, fear is the word, but you know, trying to figure out what's going on.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
My anxiety goes like tenfold when things like this happen, and when we can't do anything. That's the other piece, is like most of what she gets is viruses, and you can't do anything. Like they're like, put her in a bathroom full of steam. Great, we've been doing that for 6 months. Like it's not like that doesn't change what's going on with her, or what's happening. You know, what's happening in her body and her ability to fight it off. And I don't want to stuff her full of antibiotics, but it's like a fear-based thing. And then our doc is really great, and I really appreciate her, and she's been very like upfront around about like if we need to do like more serious things, like it'll be okay, like all that. So it's been quite an adventure this week, just trying to balance, and then I think not overly worry about stuff until it happens, because my brain's like, oh my God, she's gonna have to have surgery, and what are we gonna do, and how's that gonna affect us, and
and then you get all worried about that. Yeah,
absolutely.
So staying present sounds like biggest focus. Just dealing with what's actually happening in the moment.
Absolutely. And like recognizing that yes, she doesn't feel good, but she's not dying. I was not gonna go this weekend. I was like, no, like she's sick. I don't want to be away from her when she's sick. And my husband, thankfully, is good enough to be like, no, like she's not in the hospital. She's not dying. She's not even at a risk of that. Like, go.
And I can call you to come home if you need to, right?
Yeah, exactly. He was like, you're a couple hours away. Like, she's going to be fine. He's like, you need to sleep because realistically, like, you're the one who's getting up with her. So you need to go rest and take care of yourself. So if this is going on next week where you like have a new page, okay. That makes sense. So
that's great. Yeah. Cool. So that's great to be supportive like that, right? Have that.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not always the case. Good.
Yeah.
So since I didn't get your focus sheet, what were you working on, and what did you get done?
Yeah. So I got my halves done. And I'm working on, I made a joke about, I'm working on my vision and my mission statement. I had written some before, but I don't like them. And I want to shift what that looks like. And so I said I started them, but I was not super motivated in the last couple of weeks to do anything extra. So I didn't get them completely finished or like revised.
What do you want to change about the other one that you've created? Like, what's the?
I feel like when I was going with my other like business person that I was working with, I think I told you he's really like motivational, but not super like action oriented.
Gotcha.
So when he was explaining them to me, I felt like I mixed them up.
Oh, okay.
Like what that actually meant. Like more like the vision was more of the mission statement, and the mission statement was more of the vision. So broader versus whatever. But I also felt like when I did them so early on and when I was starting that it was too much. And so actually going back and thinking about my why do I do this and what is my goal in life to do this, it's not part of either of them. Like it's not in there, and I want to make sure that I at least fit in one of them.
Yeah, for sure.
Of what that looks like. So that's actually one thing that I'm going to do this weekend, which I feel good about because I'm like, I'm going to be in a cabin in the middle of the woods and super relaxed and it's fine, and that feels like I can do things.
Yes.
Do you want to see Kim too? Doggo.
She's like, I don't like being down here.
I know. He's like, Mama, what's going on?
He's cute.
So yeah, he's my other sick baby. He's started having seizures, which is.
What's his name again?
Sarge. Yeah, Sargento. This is him.
Aww.
Hi, Kim.
Hi, Sargento. He started having seizures?
Yeah.
Oh.
About 3 months ago.
Oh.
And they're random. They're super random. They're not.
He's so
like.
cute.
Yeah, thank you. He has really big ears that Munchkin likes to grab onto. Yeah, super random. So they just happen. Like we don't know what triggers them. Our vet has she's like, there's nothing in his blood. There's nothing toxic. I have no clue. So she wondered if it was stress induced, but she said it's super rare in dogs. Okay, so we're trying to figure out what's going on with you too, because we've had a couple in the last couple of weeks, which is weird.
Yeah.
Really, it's like a month or 6 weeks apart, couple months apart. So yeah.
They get along.
They do. It's funny because one of the things that was suggested was that she might be allergic to him, and I was like, so that's impossible. Like we can't separate them. I was like, she would be super upset. And like I can't get rid of him. So I can't, even though you drive me nuts. But they're super in sync. When she starts like getting upset, he like whines and howls just to let us know. He's like, hello. It's really annoying, but it's super cute afterwards. Like when you think about it, it's cute, but it's really annoying in the moment.
I bet. You're like, all right.
Yeah, but he tries to help her crawl and he wants to play with her, and it's really funny. He's very protective.
There's something so sweet about dogs and little kids like that. I don't know what it is. Like the two innocents. I don't know.
Yeah. And I think they're very similar.
Yeah. Right. That age probably. Yeah. All right. So you'll continue working on your vision mission, it sounds like. Okay.
Yep. That's my goal. That's my goal to finish this weekend if I don't finish anything else.
Okay.
Your nails.
Well, let's move into the marketing stuff. I want to talk a little bit about that today. So let me share my screen.
Which is great because I just started with Andy doing some stuff.
Oh, good. Okay. This will help you, for what you want to put on your website and stuff. Yeah. So cool. Whoop. Can you see the PDF? Where did it go?
Yeah.
Right here? Okay. All right. Oops. I keep disappearing. So we talked this. So this is in the second step of our six steps, a niche part. And this is our unique selling proposition. So I'm going to talk through some of these slides. What I'll do is I'll email you these slides, but I have printouts for y'all here. So I'll give them to you when you come next time, but I'll give it to you ahead of time. All right. So the why, your why kind of feeds into your vision, and the vision then is, the business's why essentially. And then the mission is the how you're going to implement the why. And then your marketing pieces are then how you talk about your why. So that's how I like to think about it.
Yeah. All interconnected.
Huh?
All interconnected.
Yes, totally. So your USP is your unique selling proposition. And I always think of it as like what makes you different from every other, you know, child family therapist out there, right? Because there's lots of them out there, but all of you are different and unique because of who you are, your personalities, your experiences, stuff like that. So this is kind of connected to that why in that way. So this talks about a successful USP, truly unique. So a lot of people say my unique selling proposition is that I provide great customer service, and that's not actually.
No.
So it's more
actually, you probably should do that.
Well, yeah, that's a given, right? To be a good business person, but yeah, that's not what makes you different. Exciting to your target market, something that will get people talking, and something that can't be easily copied. This talks about the rule of being first. Most of us in whatever we do now is not first, because pretty much everything's been done unless you're, you know, creating something completely new out there. But you can be thinking about like how you're first in a particular area or specific talent that you have or whatever it is, or, you know, how you're going to do it differently, essentially.
Got it.
Do you have some thoughts on that, on how you are different from other family therapists out there?
You know, I think in the perspective you just put it, I need to think a little more on that, because a lot of what I try and do, or like when I talk to people, it's about the modalities that I use. So I don't use talk therapy hardly ever with kids. I do like play therapy, art, and movement.
Yeah.
And so usually when I talk to people, that's what I tell them is like, and I use a different type of play therapy than like traditional. So I use something called synergetic play therapy, which involves a lot more like in the moment modeling and teaching and stuff like that. So it's a newer type of play therapy that a lot of people don't care about, but I guess I haven't really thought about what makes me unique in that. Like that's unique, but it's not like the only thing, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So, hey, okay.
She's like, oh, I got an audience. Nice.
Yeah, this is my life.
This is my life.
Yeah, Mom's trying to learn things. Can we let her do that?
All right. So, okay. So yeah, think about that. And really it does kind of come down to your why. It comes down to like how you are related to that, and then how you bring that into your practice and how you interact with people.
Right.
And yeah, sometimes it's hard to think about like, how am I different? Sometimes it's good to ask people, and I don't know, you could ask other therapists maybe, or certain clients, you know, that you feel like would be good to ask, like how, if they've seen others.
Yeah, I wonder if I could also talk, because I contract with 2 different clinics to do therapy. I think we talked about that at one point, and I wonder if they would have a perspective too of like why they chose to have me over other people, especially because those are ones that I work with adults only.
Yeah.
So, which is a little bit different.
Right.
That's a good idea. Make a
note. I would be curious. All right. So then marketing is about creating a difference. This is maybe a good exercise to start thinking about. Write down 3 outlandish things you can do in your business to blow people out of the water. But like, write down 3 things that make you different from other therapists like you. Like either like the play therapy thing or modality is an interesting angle. Because definitely techniques can make you different, you know.
Okay.
But
yeah. I know. We're deciding to be a pill right now.
Well, and so, I mean, also, Katie, no, like if you want to, you can definitely either mute or sign off, and I can still teach this and you two don't watch it. I mean, it'd be weird. I'm talking to myself, but
yeah.
I don't want you to feel like, oh my God, this is not, you know.
No, that's fair. I might, if she starts getting a little whinier, I'll probably mute it, and then I'll unmute if I have questions or things.
That's totally fine. And I'll send you the link as well for this if you need to rewatch anything. So it's one of the cool things about doing this on video, I guess. But All right. So then we also talk about a guarantee. So a lot of times, and I'm not sure what this would be, honestly, in your field, Araceli probably can come up with some things that would make sense in hers. But like in coaching, I offer for people who do one-to-one and they're doing it every week. If they are doing the homework and they're doing all the things that we talk about, if I don't find my fee within 17 weeks, essentially is what we put the time frame we put on it, then I will coach them for free until they do. Because I know that if they apply the stuff, the things that we're doing, most of the time, I mean, 99% of the time they see results. There might be some weird thing that happens with some people. And so if that does happen, I'm happy to keep working with them until they get it, basically. But so thinking about something like that, and I know in therapy you can't really guarantee anything like,
you'll be fixed in 6 weeks.
Right. Can't really say that. But, there was a medical clinic that was being franchised, or I don't know, they're opening them up around the country.
Okay.
And their guarantee was, we will see you at the time of your appointment. So that was their guarantee, because that's very unusual for doctors, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can think about it in terms of that. That was awesome. You can think about it in terms of that. Like what's the thing that people are afraid of when they come to therapy that you can try to mitigate with a guarantee?
Okay.
This is about guarantees. People are frightened of guarantees. A lot of people think that clients are going to rip them off or customers are going to rip them off. And they're going to figure out how to do that. Mm-hmm. Most people don't try to do that, but so this is what a guarantee does: increases confidence, gives security, reduces risk, is a contract, builds trust, quality creates difference, and you get to choose the wording. So you can choose kind of however you word it.
Got it. There we go.
So what are the benefits of using
just for her?
Okay.
So Araceli doesn't hear all of the blabbering.
Okay. So what are the benefits of using your product or service? You can think about that, and think about that as in terms of your guarantee. And then again, just coming up with something that's going to mitigate any challenges for people to try you. Because once people try our services, they usually like it, and then they're willing to come back. So. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about the ladder of loyalty. So this is our customer service side of things and how we keep clients engaged. I think, and it may be somewhere in here, but I think it says 58% of our clients and customers don't come back to us because of perceived apathy on our part. So it's not that they don't like our services or they think we don't do a good job. It's just that they think we don't care. So if somebody comes, and your situation's different, but like for Araceli, if somebody comes in once for a facial and then they don't come back, it's not necessarily they think she wasn't good or that the service wasn't good. It's that she hasn't probably reached out enough to them and invited them back or offered them some reason to come back, something like that. Or just let them know that she's there. Because a lot of times we just think, I shouldn't care. I'm going to go to this other place closer. It doesn't really matter, But it does, of course, matter to us. So if we just put a little bit of effort into this piece, it really keeps people. So the ladder loyalty is about getting our customers or clients up to raving fans so that they're out telling people about us and selling us versus, us trying to attract them. So we have suspect at the bottom rung here. And the suspect, these are people that are in your target market. So, for you, Katie, if it's the target market are, parents with kids that have survived some sort of trauma, obviously that's your target market. And then suspects are anybody who falls into that on the first rung. We say, creating your ideal customer, and this is a piece of the marketing where you're like, who is my target market? Who's my ideal customer? A good way to do this is to look back through your current customers and old customers and clients and sort of rate them on an ABC, D, like I was dead, D basis. The D's are, not good fits. They don't want to pay your fee. They don't show up in time for sessions. They cancel all the time. They're not doing their work, all that stuff. And those are people that you do not want to have again or any clients like that. the can't deal with are the C's. So they're a little bit better than the D's, but not a whole lot. And the B's are basic, like so they pay their bills, they do their work, they might cancel sometimes, but you know, they're doing it enough to kind of get by. And then the awesome are the ones who, they are your ideal. So they show up, they do their work, they pay on time, all that stuff. They'll pay your regular fee, all that stuff. And so when you go through your clients and you kind of rate them, then it's easy to start seeing the themes of the people that you do not want to attract, as well as the people that you do. Some C's you can get up to A or B, but some you can't. So you kind of have to nix them as well. And you might have some clients like this now. Like I know when I first, I mean, you've been in business for a while now, but Araceli, maybe you'll get something like this where you just want clients and you just want, you know, money, obviously. And so you pretty much take anybody, even when you know they might not be a good fit. And then over time, you start to realize this person's a lot more headache than the money that they're paying me. And so if I can, you know, I don't know, it's scary, I guess, but if you can go through and take out those people that you don't want to work with, it ends up being better for you in the long run, and then attract the people you do. All right, so then we go to prospect. So someone's a prospect if they take action and you collect their details. So they actually give you information. So suspect are people that are in your target market. Prospects are people who actually talk to you, right? And you actually have their information. A shopper is in someone who buys from you once. So we say they're not really a customer until they purchase from you at least twice. But if somebody buys from you once, you confirm their details, that becomes a shopper. A customer then is the second one. So they buy a second time. A repeat customer has a 60 to 70% chance of converting. So yeah, if you get a repeat customer, and then the chances are that they keep coming back are pretty good. And a lot of times we talk about the second time a client comes or second time a customer buys from you. So the first time is sort of just paying for the marketing that you've put out there, and the second time actually creates profit because they've purchased from you the second time. So. And then the 80-20 rule. So 20% of our customers usually pay for 80% of or bring in 80% of our income. So really focusing on who that 20% is. And then those individuals can become members, which again, and some of this stuff is going to be interesting to think about as far as a therapist goes. For Araceli, she could definitely come up with stuff like this. So if you have people who come fairly regularly, you know, like it's kind of like those shopper cards that you get if you go to King Supers and stuff like that. I mean, obviously they're tracking all your purchases too, but you get little deals when you become a member. And so it makes people feel really special and like they belong to something. So having some sort of program or plan that you put them in after they've purchased from you so many times can be part of it. Our thing for this, I was thinking about in coaching, if I do anything, I've thought about this, but for me, it's more like doing, like you get extra things if you're a client versus if you just come to one-off things. So you get Growth Club. If I have a client appreciation party, you get that. You know, there's things that you get as a part of being a client versus if you're just, I don't know, do a session here and there for different things, which some people always like to do, which I don't know how that's really helpful, honestly, but I'm like, okay. All right. And then you build a relationship. And yeah, it's about the emotional bank accounts, putting deposits and withdrawals, putting withdrawals, deposits in, taking withdrawals out. We get people up to the advocate area where this is if they are out telling others about you. So social media is great for this. They want to share kind of who you are and what you do because they love you. And it leaves them feeling with satisfaction. This is where, you know, a lot of people's like, I provide customer satisfaction, which that's kind of the baseline that everybody has to provide at this point, just to kind of be open, I think. So it's really more about how can I make them excited. So satisfaction, but they talk about getting more than they expected. So yeah, so a client might say, you know, I love this person because of this reason. And when you give them something more than what they expected, that's way more than just satisfying them. So satisfaction is baseline, like I said. Then raving fan, they're out just promoting you like crazy because they love you. The advocate's more somebody you might say, hey, would you share this on your Facebook page? And they do. You have to kind of start it off. But the raving fan is somebody who just automatically starts telling people about you because they just think you're great. So let's see, good customer service, proactive. Don't wait until there's a problem to start taking care of your customers. One of the things that they talk about a lot is that if you do something that does disappoint a customer or client, like you don't fulfill your side of the bargain somehow, you're late, or I don't know, they don't get the best treatment or whatever and they're upset about it. If you can turn them around in that moment and, you know, basically get them to give you another shot and then you really do satisfy them, they will become a raving fan because their emotions are so high in that point of being upset that when you can turn that around and make it into a positive thing, those emotions kind of flip and they're super positive at the same time. So being proactive about that. A lot of times people are scared to ask, you know, I remember when I first started coaching, my coach was asking me how my clients were enjoying coaching or what they were getting out of it. And I was like, I guess they're good. And he's like, are you asking them? And I was like, no, I was scared to death to ask him because I'm like, well, what if they're not liking what they're getting? What am I going to do? And he was just like, well, you should know that early on if they're not, because that will keep them engaged. And so that's one of the things that I've tried to do better is just let people know that I want you to get out of this what you need. And if you're not, please bring it up with me. You know, we can have a talk about it. But then me being proactive about it and asking, you know, are you getting what you need? Is there something else you need? That sort of thing. I have a client who's a web developer and he was doing the same thing where, I don't know, they could tell something was off with this client as they were developing their website, but they wouldn't directly ask them. They just kind of kept hoping it was going to be fine. And then at some point it wasn't fine. And if they had actually just kind of faced whatever the fear they were having around, you know, confronting somebody about not liking them or whatever.
Yeah.
We would have
I think that's one thing that I try to really like put up front when I first meet clients is like, I will be checking in with you, but I also expect you to give me feedback if we're doing something and it's not working. I need to know.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's a waste of both of our time. So I like that idea of like keeping tabs on it. I think especially in our field because we're dealing with people and the whole point is for it to be helpful. And when it's not, it's like, what are we doing?
Right. And a lot of times it's a skill that people need to learn how to have those challenging conversations, right? If they're not happy, it's like, yeah.
I feel like I learned that from my stepmom because she went and saw a therapist and she really liked her. And then the therapist she really overstepped her bounds from my perspective, but she did something that was very uncomfortable for my stepmom and she never said anything. And she had this great experience and like made all this progress, and then that one thing happened and she never told her and they can never get back on track. And I'm like, so that's actually not helpful at all.
Yeah, right.
You should do that.
Absolutely, yeah. So having maybe a system of every 3 months or whatever, just checking in and, you know, asking clients, but yeah, it's on them too to bring it up for sure. So and Araceli could do something very similar. I mean, I think a lot of times it's, you know, you get a facial, do you follow up with people to see if they enjoyed it? What would they have liked differently or whatever? Or, you know, did it meet their expectation? And then obviously asking for, not in your case, but in Araceli's case, like reviews and testimonials and stuff like that. So keep getting better, innovate, learn to start thinking outside the box. Then there's these little things that show you how to think outside the box. I'm not going to do this. Yeah, customers always expect us to get better. Consistency plus easy to buy. That's the other thing. Whatever we're selling needs to be super easy to get into and a little difficult to get out of. I think about Apple a lot with this because like iPhones and all the apps and stuff, for anybody's phone really, it's easy to add apps to it and do all the stuff you want to do on it. But if I want to change phones at some point, like I'll probably never change to another phone just because everything I have is on the Apple platform and that's what I know and love, and it's easy. But the best phone could come out on another platform, and I probably wouldn't even give it a shot, because it's going to be too much to switch all that stuff, you know? So making it really easy to get in to work with you is definitely important. Moments of truth. And I don't know if you can talk right now, but what's your process for meeting with people, as far as like somebody refers you or whatever? Is it fairly easy to call and make an appointment, or do you go back and forth trying to make the appointment? How's that all work? Oh, I can't hear you. I think you're still muted.
Yeah.
Ah, there you go.
That was stinky.
Sorry. I'm glad we don't have smell on this.
Yeah, smell vision. Ew.
Light and sound is good.
Okay, we'll go change in 2 seconds. So I can't call people, and so what I have to have people contact me.
Yeah.
So I always give like my email and my cell and say like you can call, text, email. It's fairly easy to schedule an appointment. I think the hard part with mine is that everybody wants evenings, and I only have so many spots.
Yeah.
And so that's where I think I lose some people, because it's like I have a 1 o'clock and that's it. Like,
Yeah.
that's my latest.
No, that makes sense. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Give me like 1 sec. I'm just gonna change her.
Yeah, no problem. And Araceli, if you're watching, yours is super easy because you can do it online. I really like the system that you had. Somebody else has a system similar to that. I think it's Lindsay at LB. You can schedule it all online, and that makes it very easy. And then you get a text, I think a reminder, email, text, something like that. So, yeah. All right. So moments of truth. This talks about the times when it really counts to impress with your service. Yeah, this is what I was saying. 68% of people leave because of perceived indifference, that you just don't care. So yeah, it's higher than what I remembered. So 68% is a big chunk. These are the other reasons. 1% because of death, 3% because they move, 5% is because they'd rather buy from a friend, and then 9% is sold by a competitor, and 14% is your actual product or your price. So yeah, the biggest chunk is just us not showing that we care. So that's fairly easy for us to do then. So part of, as we move forward, thinking about probably more for Araceli than you, I'm guessing, but just how to keep those people engaged, because it's great to get them in for a session, but then how do you get them back in for a second, third, fourth time on a regular basis, right? So these are the handouts. All right. So let me see here. Oh, stop share. Pull up the homework. So these are, let me share my screen. These are some examples of good USPs. All right, so good examples are Head and Shoulders. Remember Head and Shoulders, old dandruff stuff? You get rid of dandruff was their USP. That's pretty easy. Olay, you get younger looking skin. Red Bull, you get stimulation of mind and body, or body and mind. Ronsil, you get exactly what it says on the tin. I have no idea what that one is. That's so weird. So some unique ones. Domino's, you get fresh hot pizza delivered to your door in 30 minutes. So that was like, that's obviously at that time, I remember that being very unique, right? And if it wasn't, then you got a free pizza or something like that. And that was always fun to, I remember timing the people to make sure they got there. I think there ended up being a lot of lawsuits though, because people had accidents, racing through the cities trying to get places. If FedEx is your package, absolutely, positively has to get there overnight. So that's their guarantee. M&M's, the milk chocolate melts in your mouth, not in your hands. That's what they always, and that is so not true, right? I always get so much chocolate on my, I don't know how, because they have this candy coating, but I always get stuff all over. Wonder Bread, ooh, it helps build strong bones 12 ways. I don't know what that one means. That is very weird. And who eats Wonder Bread anymore? So, for the packing industry, so these are like the pain. The pain is I have to get this package delivered quickly. UPS, when it absolutely, positively has to be there overnight. That's Federal Express. Food industry, the kids are starving. Mom and dad are too tired to cook. So the pizza thing, we'll have it there in 30 minutes or less. So thinking about the pain for your ideal customers most of the time, and then what your service or product does, and how that's tied to your why, if all of that makes sense. So these are examples. So I'll send this an email, but again, I have printed it. Oops. And then let's see. I have this USP form as well. So I'm going to send this. It just kind of helps to think about things. Oh, let me share it.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
That'd be helpful. Okay.
That would be helpful.
So yeah, it shows like your competitors. So you list like your competitors. What do they do well? It just helps you think through kind of what does set you apart. What do they do poorly? What would the average person say about each of these competitors? What is unique about them? What guarantee do they have in place? So just answering some of these questions. I don't know that you have to do 3 necessarily, but just getting you to start thinking about it. And then your industry, how's it changed over the last 5 years? I would think too with yours, I'm sure face-to-face therapy is always the best, and especially with children. Obviously, you probably can't do this a lot with kids, but do you ever Zoom calls with clients? Does that ever work?
Sometimes, okay. But I had to do one last night because I was stuck in traffic and not going to get there in time.
Oh, wow.
And so I did a phone over the phone. Those ones tend to be a little bit harder. Get it out. The newest one that I have experienced is telehealth, which is like this. It's over either like WebEx or Zoom or something that's like secure, and you do over the internet health therapy, and that one has seemed to actually take off a lot.
So it's video therapy, or okay, yeah. Wow, cool, okay. So so stuff like that. Technology has changed a lot of industries in a lot of ways, right? So kind of thinking about that. Describe the changes you expect to see in the next 12 months. Describe the changes you expect to see in the next 5 years. And then tell us about any regulations or marketing in your industry. Customer service, technology, here's the perceived standards of these different things. So again, these are just guidelines, and I would use them to kind of think through, because some people do like something to actually answer questions, and that will probably help you get a little more zeroed in. But I don't know, I would just really think about what are you excellent at, what do you love doing, and then connected with your why, how does that translate into what you like to work with clients, specific stuff. And that's what ends up usually differentiating you from everybody else who does various forms of family therapy or whatever, or facials and skincare. So so there's one.
Cool.
Yeah. So there's that piece, and then creating a powerful, let me see.
Can we choose a pen instead? Yeah, that makes me feel better. That doesn't break out. Okay. You know that. Thank you.
Like, that makes me feel better.
I know it shouldn't probably, but I don't want you eating paper.
Yeah.
Oh, scary.
So this is a great form to help you with your guarantee if you want to think about what that could be.
Cool. Yeah.
So yeah, we're listing out the problems or frustrations buying your product or service solves. What frustrations do customers experience when trying to buy your product or service? What frustrations do customers experience when they go, oh, is that the same question? Oh, they find it and then to buy it. What are the 3 major benefits of buying your product and service? What frustrations do customers experience when using your product? So all these different questions might help you think through like,
Cool.
what could be a good guarantee to offer.
Yeah, I like that because that one is difficult for me to think of right off the top of my head. Like,
yeah, I mean, I have had people do everything from, I guarantee you'll feel better when you leave kind of thing, and not, and if somebody says, well, I didn't, then it's like, okay. I mean, there's nothing you're giving them necessarily, but it's like this, I guarantee you'll feel heard when you come to me, or,
that might be kind of my thing because it's what the number one thing I know that people say is like I didn't feel heard or I didn't feel understood or like they came in with their own agenda. So those are things that I kind of preach about in my introduction to people is like if you want homework, I'm not your person for it. I'll give you suggestions and ask how they went, but I don't do homework. I don't do like an agenda. I come in and say, what do you need support on this week? What feels really big? So.
Yeah, well then that's great because that sounds like that's probably how it does make you a little bit different versus other,
That's true. That is actually like a thing I could put in there.
Well, I have a friend of mine who's in therapy, and I was like, do you like this new therapist? And she goes, yeah, she's a little more wandery. And I was like, what does that mean? She goes, well, she'll say, what are some things you could do? Like she puts it back on like coaching. What are some things you could do to do this better? Making her think about it.
Yeah.
And then another therapist that she goes to with her partner is more direct, who's like, this is your homework kind of thing. So yeah, I think that's depending on your style, right? And what you like.
Right. Yeah. And it's totally dependent on people. I know. Yeah. I'm going to make you mad, but you're going to be okay for 5 seconds, okay? She's like, what is going on here? But I think that's the important piece is like when I screen people, if they'll be fits for me, it's like I can be really direct. And in certain situations, like when I do family or couples, I'm a little more direct. But like if you're looking for individual, I definitely am not, that's not my natural way of being. And so if you really want that, I have other people that might be a better fit.
When you do individual, is there a focus that you love the most? I mean, I know you do stuff through companies and stuff, but
like area, I think, well, I love working with anxiety because I have experienced, like everyone experiences it, but I think I like working with it because to me it's a little more like surfacey. And so a lot of people don't understand where it comes from. And I like to get to that deeper place of like, okay, what does this anxiety actually come from? And how do we help process and mitigate that and cope with that piece of it, because that will relieve the anxiety. Because I think a lot of people come in and say, well, I'm just anxious and I worry and I overthink things. And it's like, but actually there's a reason for that. So let's talk about it. And then I think the other thing I really like working with, but it's learning how to balance that because it's draining, is I love working with trauma, like, which sounds awful, right? I'm like, I really like people who are, going through traumatic situations. But
it's
I love it.
Yeah, it's needed. I mean, it is hard, but it's needed.
Yeah.
Totally.
And so that's one that I think I like working with kids more than adults with. But it's something that I really like, and I find really great, but also really draining. So if I have too many clients that are have some pretty intense trauma, then I don't do well. So it's like a balance for me a lot of times. So
Absolutely.
I've tried to learn how many I can have on my caseload at each of my sites before it's too much. But then I have a lot of grief right now. I have a ton of grief work, which is weird. I have 3 clients right now that have partners who like just drop dead out of nowhere. And like that, I work well with it because it's similar work as trauma, but that's also really heavy. So I'm learning how to balance out what other people I take.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
well, and I can imagine that would be traumatic as well, right? To lose your partner like that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Out of the blue.
Because there is a lot of trauma a lot of times in it. And then also like the grief process is just so different. And so that, I mean, that's been an interesting part.
Well, what's interesting to me about what you said is like helping, and I mean, this could be wrong or assumption, I guess, but people who are anxious, you're helping understand where the anxiety comes from. I'm guessing 99% of the time it's a trauma, right? Like
it's a trauma, or it's a like an upbringing.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times I have people who are anxious come in and we'll talk about like history. Sorry.
Yeah.
Don't eat Sarge's tail, please. Don't eat his tail. Thank you. Araceli's gonna really laugh at all the things I say here.
No. Entertaining.
So a lot of people come in and it's like upbringing. They're like, well, I had a great, like, you know, my parents were like, leave it to Beaver, but then the more we talk about it, they're like, well, they were always like really critical and they always said I needed this, that, and the other. They were like one girl told me the other day that her mom would like secretly watch her during cross country and time her, and if she wasn't correct on her time, she would like get upset. I'm like, okay, so that's actually not okay.
Yeah.
And you're super anxious, and that's where that comes from. Like, right. So, but yeah, so you think that's a piece of it too. I know,
We can go. We're permitted time.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay.
No, that's fine. Okay,
I'm
yeah.
Get a bottle super fast for her. Just so
okay.
This is what you want. God, you are like starvation nation. Yeah. Hey, mommy didn't eat for 2 days. So yeah, so that's like I guess a trauma too, like that I work with just in a less intense form.
Yeah.
Usually.
Sure.
Not always, but usually.
Okay. Yeah, well, all that stuff, I mean, that's interesting. So yeah, I would be thinking about that too. Like, what do I love talking to people about? And what am I really, it's like your superpower, you know, like what am I really good at seeing? Because I'm guessing you're really good at then seeing quickly probably what this anxiety is connected to for somebody, right?
Yeah.
So that they can make that association.
Yeah. And that sometimes they have to be mindful about like making that too quickly and telling people about it because they're not ready.
Well, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. But
for sure.
Yeah, that is definitely something I feel like I excel at a little bit more.
Well, and I mean, and I think therapy in general is supposed to be like this, but it sounds like it's what you do really well around the anxiety piece, like pulling the root out, right? Instead of just dealing with the weed part. It's like, well, no, let's get to the root of all this stuff that you do.
Yeah.
Because I have friends that say that too. They're like, well, I'm just anxious. That's just how I am. And I'm like, okay, yeah, but it's coming from somewhere, you know, It's not,
Absolutely.
Okay.
And actually that's part of what I put on my presentation for next week is like what makes it different is I don't focus on surface stuff. I don't focus on symptoms. I focus on like why, like what's causing the symptoms.
Yes.
I don't want to treat the symptoms. We will after we figure out what's causing it, but that's not my focus. Where I feel like a lot of therapy now, and even as I was being trained as a therapist, it was like solution focus, because that's what insurance paid for. Learned really great ways of like how to write solution focused treatment plans and not make that my only mode.
Yeah, well, I mean, it seems like you're just putting a Band-Aid on a bigger problem, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I left my nonprofit world, because that's what it was. You stabilize a client, you send them off without preparation for the family, and then they come back, and it's just that's not why I want to do this. Oh,
Well, so that's really, yeah, that's good, Katie, because then that's more about, I mean, that's a good way to talk about it, right? Like if you want a therapist that's just going to kind of stay in the details of the surface part of your life, that's fine. That's not me. But if you want to really figure out where this stuff is coming from,
right.
how to fix it, yeah,
Yeah.
then that's what you do. And it's cool because that's with adults, I'm guessing, more so than kids, right? But then with kids, it's more about dealing with the event kind of
Yeah.
as it's happening or as it happened or right after.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so much, I laugh, I tell adults this a lot of times, like it's so much easier with kids because they process and play. And adults do processing in a different way too. Like a lot of adults actually don't process while talking, but that's what they were taught to do, right? Talk about it. And so I have a lot of times where I will start talk therapy with adults. I know when it's not warm, how rude, mom. But I will like go into and being like, okay, so today, like I'm gonna try something different, and I'm gonna make you use a fidget because I think you need something to process with, and that's not your normal way of being. So we're gonna just try this. A lot of times, it's a lot easier for them to get to their group that way. But kids
That's
just play
cool.
it. Like
Yeah.
I find it so much easier in that sense because it's easier to follow the story because they play it out for you.
That's, yeah, I can see that. That's very cool. I have a former client who's also a yoga teacher of mine that she is teaching. She created a yoga for trauma course,
Awesome.
teaching course. Yeah.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine went through it and she was just, and it was really powerful. Like brought up a bunch of stuff, but because they were doing yoga in the moment, like she processed it physically and let it out.
Absolutely.
It was really cool. I should connect you and Cole together. Y'all should,
That'd be
y'all,
awesome.
y'all would probably be good power partners to talk.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would love to because that's an amazing thing. And one of the things that I tried to start before I left Mount St. Vincent's was doing like a yoga group for kids, or things like that. Because we had like animal assisted and art and all these things, but it's like a lot of our movement based stuff was only individual. And like I was like, so many of these kids would do great. We do great. I do better processing when I'm hiking or like walking or doing something like that than I do just sitting.
Well, it's the EMDR idea, right? Like
Yes, absolutely.
yeah.
It's because you're focusing on working both sides of your body and your brain. And when you actually process a traumatic event and you're doing something like that, your brain processes it different and it stores it in a different place. And so it doesn't store it in the limbic system, like trauma usually is stored, which is our emotional brain. It stores it in our cognitive brain. And when it's in our cognitive brain, it's easier to process and it's easier to move past because it doesn't hold as much of a weight and it's not necessarily activating our fight or flight system every time.
That's very cool. So do you take people on hikes like and do sessions that way or?
I try to. The kids a lot. Most like a lot of my teens, we walk while we do it, or we go play football, or we do something of that sort.
Yeah.
Adults, it takes a little more convincing because a lot of times they're like, I don't want people to know I'm here. I don't want people to know I'm busy. So, but a lot of times what I do with adults is I like teach them because I'm not EMDR certified yet. It's a very expensive process.
Is it?
But there's techniques that I know that I use with adults. To just even in session, I'll teach them like the tapping and things like that they can do and butterfly taps. And I do that a lot with them, or I put music on while we tap. And a lot
that
of
engages the brain in the front.
Yep. And if I do it, so it's weird. Most of the chairs that I work in have arms, and so I'll put it on one side of my chair, and then I'll actually like physically move it because it's usually on my phone. So I just like put it on either side and like, hey, what music like feels really powerful for you today?
Yeah.
A lot of times I'll do that, and it's not as powerful, but it still does that cross like midline stuff for people.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Huh.
So,
very cool. Well, yeah. Katie, all of that stuff is very unique. I mean,
I guess it is all really unique. I like sit here and I'm like, I guess because my core group of therapist friends I know, all of us do similar stuff. But a lot of them, like I have an art therapist that I work with and a dance and movement therapist I work with. And so it's funny when I think about uniqueness, it's not unique to our core, but I guess it is unique overall.
Yeah. I mean, I've never had a therapist that does any of that stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
That
I
should
think
be
it's,
part of my thing.
well, but because I think you're right. I think a lot of people, one, have done therapy and they've gotten, obviously you get results, some results, but like for me, for example, I did therapy for years and then I went and did a yoga teacher training program and I had a lot of anger at my parents just because of like the gay thing and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I did this yoga teacher training program and it was a 500-hour program. In the beginning of that program, you know, one of the poses is sitting on the ground, opening your legs and trying to lean forward. I could barely lean forward. My hips were so tight. By the end of that program, I could pretty much put my chest flat on the ground. And all of a sudden, I was like, one day, I remember thinking, I was like, something happened with my parents and they said something and it normally would have triggered me so bad. I would have gotten so upset. I didn't get mad.
Yeah.
I didn't have any kind of reaction. And all of a sudden I was like, what happened? And I realized like, oh, I processed a lot of old emotions through this program that I had just because we were doing so many sessions and, you know, I don't know, and just a lot of chakra work and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
it was amazing. So
Absolutely.
and I think there's a lot of people that are like, well, I've done therapy. It's like, okay, so maybe you need to do something different
Yeah.
than just talk therapy, I guess.
Yeah. And I guess that's the first thing I normally tell people is talk therapy isn't my thing. Like I like to process in a different way and we'll talk about things, and process it out, but we're going to do other stuff with it, you know, because it's a lot of times what happens is our anxiety, our depression, our trauma, like, and I talk about this in my burnout session a lot, or training, is it gets stuck in our body. And that's where we have reoccurrent things from it, is because it's actually physically manifested in our body. And so we need to figure out ways to get that out in a different way. And we're not taught to do that as kids a lot of times. And so like the first thing I tell kids is like, you have the run of the room. Like you get to do whatever you want. And a lot of them are like, what? What are my rules? Nothing. There are no rules. Don't hit me. That's my rule. Don't do that. If you want to, and like we have swords and we have things that we can like play fight with. And I always say like my boundary is don't hit my head. Like, and we can be safe and we can go. And I mean, it's amazing to have them feel like there's not a limit, you know, a way to do it and they can process and get out whatever they feel in the moment instead of.
That's huge because we don't learn that. And you're teaching kids how to do that now.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Later. I even do it with adults. I do a lot of art with adults.
Oh,
even if they're like, I hate art, I'm so bad at it. It's like, yeah, but this is different. Like this isn't, I'm wanting you to paint a picture or masterpiece.
yeah, for sure.
It's like, I want you just to like throw paint on paper and physically feel that. That's it. I don't care.
Yeah.
We can burn it afterwards. I don't care. Like, so it's actually like it's really fun for me to do that because I think I found my own coping and ways of processing through that because I didn't ever have a talk therapist. Like the therapist, even today that I work with, like we talk more, but we do a lot of other things to process because that's the way most of us do.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and the talk therapy too, I think we do end up being stuck in the story so much. And then we're in our minds and we're just like rehashing it, but we're not actually processing it.
Yeah. Yep.
It's powerful. So you're very different. So yes, you have a lot to work on with this because I think I think when you get, because right now, you know, I mean, not that your commercials are bad, but when you do your commercials, it just sounds like you're a regular therapist, really. I mean, I didn't realize all this stuff. It took, you know, talking about this on a deeper level to understand like, oh, you do things totally different. Yeah. And what's cool about it is I can see how both adults and kids are your target market because you work with them on different sides of the trauma, right? So that's kind of the cool thing too.
Yeah. I think now that we talked about it more, I have like a piece of my presentation that I talk about what makes me different, but I think I'm going to put in more of this kind of stuff so people understand because it's hard in my like 45-second commercial to like, right? I don't know how to get that across, but I think being able to educate people on it feels really important. and that's my whole purpose of next week, because then I also had a lot of one-to-ones where people are like, oh, you're like a doctor, forget it. I'm like, no, that's not what I am at all. I don't have an MD. Like this is, so I explain like the different aspects, because there are a lot of different people that work in different ways.
Yeah.
But I really do want to educate on like that piece of it, is that I don't do talk. I mean, I will if somebody really wants it, but that's not normally what I like to do.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I think that's what the presentations are for, is to really go into to show how you are different, because you're right, it's hard in the 30-second commercials, but I do think too you can probably integrate some of this into commercials.
I'll have to think of ways that I can do that, because I do think that's important to keep reminding people too. It's not
I mean, even if you're giving a client came in and had this problem and we ended up playing it out or whatever. I mean, if you give examples a lot of times too, people, oh, she does different things. It's one of the reasons that I try to talk about the personal development stuff that I try to help people recognize as well in my coaching, just because that's what makes me different and than a lot of other just business coaches, I guess. But being aware of your own crap.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you have to be. It's funny how much I laugh, because I just started with Nick, which is fabulous for me. I haven't been to a chiropractor since I had like my major medical year. And I like laugh about how much I talk with other people about like harboring it in your body and and I'm like, oh my God, it is fully in there. And it 1000% affects the business side of my business. I've learned how to not let it affect my therapy side of my business, but the business side is an edge for me, and it all comes back up and having to like deal with that piece again and re-go through it.
That's great that you're doing that then. That'll be good. Yeah. Release on that.
But yeah, totally. It definitely, I mean, running your own business is a traumatic thing itself.
Totally can be.
Yeah, it can be. At times it is.
Yeah. I was talking to somebody and they were just like, I could not have my own business. It scares me to death. I was like, I think when you know what to do, it becomes less scary. Yeah. And that's why I like teaching people this stuff, because like I've just seen it when you do it like this over and over and over again, you actually can be successful, right?
Yeah. And that's I think it's so important. My husband and I laugh, because he really should work for himself. It's hard for him to work for other people, but he's so anxious around it. And it's hard for him to recognize that. We're getting better at it, but it's so anxiety provoking. And he's like, what if everything in the world blows up and goes wrong? I have to prevent it all. And it's like, so that's not, you can't run a business that way. I'm like,
I think I have been realizing there's something about the engineer types. Because like my girlfriend Mandy's that way, she's the same. She needs to work for herself, but she's scared to death, and I think she will at some point. But I have a good friend like that. I mean, there's like several people, and they're the people who in their jobs have to consider every horrible thing that could happen, right, and how to manage it. Yep. And so then I think what happens is that easily gets carried over into their whole world. So they're always, because she can't look at any situation without thinking of all the things that could go wrong. And I'm like, why are you thinking like it's so foreign to my brain? But
that's very similar to Sean.
Yeah.
Very similar, because and even like when we have people working on house projects, he will like, that is the first thing that comes in. I'm like, you just trust that maybe these people aren't going to screw us up. Yeah. I get it. But can we just wait?
Yeah. They automatically assume the worst, right? Like or they can see the worst things, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. But I definitely agree with that. I think because their industry has so many, it's funny. I talk about this as like a nonchalantly, like the biggest thing I have to worry about is getting sued by somebody, right? But like, I know what I need to know in order for that not to happen. And if it does, I keep a ton of documentation, because I get that's the biggest thing I have to worry about. But I don't have to worry about I worry about people's lives, but it's different in a different way. Like I don't have to worry about a piece of machine falling on them. And or if my design isn't structurally good, how that.
Right.
I don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. So it is a little bit different in that sense too.
Yeah, like Mandy, when she designed software, she's like, I have to think of everything that somebody's going to do to screw this up and like, you know, make sure that doesn't happen. I'm like, oh my God, there's an infinite amount of possibilities, right? I'm like, what?
Absolutely.
She's like, yeah, you can't get them all, but that's how she thinks about everything now. I'm like, oh my God. And so I'm like, I don't know if it's healthy to have these kinds of jobs long term. Like,
yeah, for long. And that's for my husband, it's in the surveying of like, he does legal description now. And it's funny because when he was in the field, this is not comfortable. Sorry. Turn my baby around.
you fall asleep? Oh.
Yeah. She's waking.
She's like, oh.
Um,
I wore myself out.
exactly. But he, you know, he has to worry about the exact way things are written, or if it's not written right, then legally things don't work out for the property owners or the people, construction people, or if the, he does mapping too, and so like if the text don't measure something to like the, I think he said it's like like a tenth of a inch or a tenth of a centimeter to the point, then everything's screwed up. And
Wow.
that's crazy. Yeah. Crazy.
That's precise. Yeah.
Yeah. So it is. I think it is one of those things where you're like, is this mentally healthy for you overall? Or
yeah. After a while, it's like, this is how you see everything. Oh, yeah, that's tough. So I guess it's more though, how do you learn strategies to manage?
Yeah.
Not to disassociate, but to manage those worries and to know, okay, this is my brain spinning out of control and this is not really,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. That helps me though, actually, with this conference thing that I'm going to be presenting at, because I think obviously a lot of those people will be there. And so
absolutely.
That's good to think about it in that way.
Yeah. Like, how do we, I think that's a huge piece of theirs is like, how do we like manage our stress level around that? Like, this is what I tell Sean a lot. Like, so when you get really stressed, you get super snarky. Like, and I do too, so I recognize that. But I'm like, then when you guys are working in an environment that's so stressful, all of you guys are communicating in a very abrupt way, and then you guys get defensive because you're stressed, and so your like stress response system is firing at all times.
Yeah.
And that's why you guys can't communicate well, because it's like so like just get it done, and all of you are very similar in that sense, and so stressed out that like you can't think through how things sound to other people.
No.
It's funny, our therapist compared it to like being a Sherman tank. Like you go in and you just blow people up, right? And then that's how you get things done, and that's actually not effective.
No, most of the time it's not.
When to be that way and when not to be that way.
Right.
But I think a lot of us do that.
Oh yeah, and I can imagine when you're under that much stress all the time, and everybody is. That's just you're just waiting for explosions like that, right?
Absolutely.
All right. What'd you learn today?
Oh, I learned so much. Well, I feel like I actually learned more about how to think about uniqueness in my business. But I think also how to market the differences that I have versus other people, and making people more loyal customers rather than just like consumers. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I feel like that was actually really powerful to me and listening to that today.
Good. Yeah. I think you're in a prime place to identify that and get clear about it, and then really connect that with your patients or clients, and then grow more that way that you really want to work with, because there's definitely the ones who know, and some people probably don't even know that's what they're looking for, more more alternatives to just talk therapy, I'm guessing. But the people who do will resonate with that immediately and want to see you or want their kids to see you. And then the other ones might give you a shot, but then figure out, oh, this is what I really do want. Or they might not, or they might, I really want, and that helps you like, you're not somebody if you just wanted to talk therapy, that's not what I want to do. So.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. I think that's like, that feels important.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, I'm going to do an email introduction. Is that okay to you and Cole? And just introduce y'all. She's the yoga teacher. Okay.
Yeah, I would love to.
I think you'd like her a lot. And what she's doing is pretty cool too. So it overlaps.
That's amazing. I like love to hear about that and talk with her about how she like started it, because that's great.
Yeah, well, and you would be a really good referral person for her to have, because she sees people that, I mean, she doesn't do the therapy part, obviously, right? So, but you know, if somebody needs a therapist, it'd be good for her to have you. So,
absolutely.
Cool.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Cool.
I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. All right. Well, have a great rest of your day. Hope you all feel better. Get some sleep.
Yeah, we will.
She's asleep.
Lay down. Yeah, I'm like,
Maybe you
I
can go to sleep.
like this. She's out. She's like, this is great. This is how I want to sleep all the time.
I'm sure it's all safe feeling, probably. Well, have fun this weekend. Get some rest.
Yes.
Don't work on your homework the whole weekend. Have fun.
I will. I'll do it periodically.
Okay, good.
Okay. Thanks, Jim.
Yes, ma'am. See you later.
Bye.